Good morning. I'm Ellison Barber in for Savannah.
And I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, end of an era and an opportunity for President Biden. The president formally announcing the retirement of Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer yesterday at the White House and making this promise about who will replace him.
That person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court.
The top contenders on President Biden's shortlist and when we could expect a nomination. Imminent threat, the standoff that has the world on edge this morning. President Biden warning that a Russian invasion of Ukraine should be expected as Moscow mobilizes its military power. But Ukraine's president defiant, telling his people the U.S. is merely stoking panic in the region. An all-out war hanging in the balance. Our Richard Engel is on the ground in Ukraine with the latest. Also this morning, a silver bullet, a potential breakthrough in the global fight against COVID right here in the United States. We're going to tell you about the team of doctors at one Texas hospital looking to fill a critical vaccination gap by taking out the big pharma middleman. Plus, not just hot air, a convection craze that's taking kitchens by storm. The air fryer, they're everywhere on Amazon, social media, and in the homes of your friends and favorite celebrities. We're going to take a look at why this latest foodie fad has become so popular. Air fryer, not to be confused with Joe Fryer. Good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good to have you. I ain't even gonna.
All right.
I can't. Yes.
We begin this morning with the latest on the process of choosing a nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court. The search is already underway this morning. President Biden says his pick will be a black woman, something he promised during the presidential campaign.
Yeah, and the president made his first detailed remarks on how he will move forward with his decision at an event with retiring Justice Stephen Breyer at the White House yesterday. NBC News chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has more.
Good morning. President Biden says he's already considering possible candidates to replace the retiring justice and that he intends to announce his decision by the end of February next month. The White House has been preparing for this moment since even before President Biden took office, and Senate Democrats are eager for the process to move quickly. This morning, it's President Biden's turn to deliberate, detailing what he's looking for in a Supreme Court pick to replace retiring Justice Stephen Breyer.
The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court. It's long overdue in my view.
Thought to be the top contenders, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson on the powerful federal appeals court here in Washington. A 51-year-old Harvard law grad who was confirmed just last year with bipartisan support. 45-year-old California State Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger. And J. Michelle Childs, a federal judge in South Carolina, the personal pick of the president's close ally, James Clyburn. Even in a 50-50 Senate, Democrats can confirm the president's nominee, whoever it is, if they stay united. All of President Biden's 42 judicial nominees have received the support of every Senate Democrat, including Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, who told a West Virginia radio show Thursday he's open to a nominee whose views are more liberal than his.
Whoever he puts up will have experience, and we'll be able to judge him off of that. But as far as just their philosophical beliefs, no, that will not prohibit me from supporting somebody.
Republican leader Mitch McConnell warning the president must not outsource this important decision to the radical left. For the president, Breyer's retirement also marks a poignant close to a personal chapter, having run Breyer's confirmation hearing nearly 30 years ago. The 83-year-old justice pulling out a copy of the Constitution, reciting part of the Gettysburg Address, while acknowledging deep divisions still exist today and urging the country not to give up on the American experiment.
My grandchildren and their children, they'll determine whether the experiment still works. And of course, I am an optimist, and I'm pretty sure it will.
By the president's own timeline, he has 1 month from today to reach that decision. He's likely to meet with possible nominees in the weeks ahead. And President Biden said that he will also seek advice from legal experts, from his vice president, and from senators from both parties. A confirmation hearing could begin as early as March. And in the retirement letter that Justice Breyer hand-delivered to the president Thursday, he said he would serve until the end of the court's term, assuming his replacement is confirmed by then. Back to you.
Peter Alexander, thanks so much.
There's another issue on the minds of those at the White House this morning, a potential Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Pentagon says more Russian troops are surrounding the Ukrainian border, holding drills and bringing in more military equipment. President Biden spoke with Ukraine's president yesterday, pledging additional economic support and vowing to respond decisively should Russia cross into Ukraine. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us now from eastern Ukraine with more. Richard, good morning.
Good morning. The U.S. has vowed to respond decisively with sanctions, not with direct military support. President Biden has previously said that he thought that Vladimir Putin would launch some sort of military incursion, some sort of assault on Ukraine. But now there's more specificity. He said that an invasion starting as early as next month, which begins in just a few days, is, quote, a distinct possibility.
As Russian troops conduct more live fire exercises near Ukraine's border and continue to build up tanks, fighter jets, warships, and missile launchers around the country's borders, President Biden once again called Ukraine's President Zelensky, promising economic support. President Biden and NATO members have repeatedly said no troops will be coming to Ukraine's assistance. But it's increasingly clear the Biden administration and President Zelensky don't agree on the risk of a Russian invasion.
We've always said, and said for quite some time, that another incursion by Russia could be imminent, and imminent means imminent.
President Biden, along with most European leaders, has warned with so much force assembled, a Russian invasion should be expected.
My guess is he will move in.
With the chances of a Russian attack increasing, a Western intelligence official tells us, as Vladimir Putin mobilizes more troops over the next 2 to 3 weeks for exercises in Belarus. President Zelensky has told his people there's no unusual risk and blamed the United States for stirring panic. It's left many Ukrainians not knowing what to do. There are no public orders for drilling, no mass call-ups of reserves, no tests of emergency response systems, just life as normal. It seems there will be no military invasion, says Marina. I believe this. I want to believe this. Some Ukrainians accuse President Zelensky of publicly urging calm to bolster his own support, as he's challenged politically by Ukraine's former president and ex-champion boxer, now Kiev mayor, Vitaly Klitschko. It's not an option to relax and stay calm. Things could explode at any minute, says Alexander Vizirov, an Army veteran. But ignore it or not, the threat, U.S. and NATO officials say, is real and mounting.
Russia's foreign minister this morning said that his country won't start a war, but he said that it is possible some other party might, and that Russia won't allow its security interests to be rudely attacked or ignored.
Richard Engel, thank you so much. Appreciate it. The Biden administration's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers is now in effect in 25 states and Washington, D.C., impacting an estimated 10 million employees who are connected to Medicare or Medicaid.
Thursday's deadline required all employees have at least one dose of a COVID vaccine and gives them another month to receive the second dose. Any employee that has not received a dose of a vaccine could be fired and puts their employer at risk of losing federal funding.
The mandate comes as hospitals continue to battle the Omicron surge. ICU beds in Central Texas have reached a new record low, affecting both COVID and non-COVID patients looking for care. Let's begin Harvard Medical School physician Dr. Aditi Nerukar for more. Good to have you with us, doctor. So there are these vaccine mandates. How are they going to affect an already stressed healthcare system? And what do patients need to know about the mandate?
You know, Joe, it is so imperative for healthcare workers to be vaccinated. A recent study from the CDC in September showed that 30% of healthcare workers are still unvaccinated. These healthcare workers are interfacing directly with high-risk groups, patients on chemotherapy, with cancer, and those who are immunocompromised. We also in the healthcare industry have to comply with a slew of other vaccine requirements by our employers. The COVID vaccine should be no different.
Dr. Nerukar, there is a study recently released by the National Institute of Health, and it goes into some of the potential side effects or concerns people had previously voiced as it relates to getting pregnant. According to this study, they say that the vaccines may temporarily change the menstrual cycle, but they also say that it has very low risk for people looking to get pregnant. However, if a person, male in particular, gets the virus, they say that that appears to slightly lower the chances of conception. Walk us through what this study looked at, what they found, and what does it mean for the rest of us?
So, Allison, this was actually a quite reassuring study. It was 10,000 people in the U.S. and Norway, and they found with the vaccine there are minimal changes to the menstrual cycle. So either a lighter flow, a heavier flow, or a longer cycle, but no different than what some women regularly experience. And so these were reassuring in the scientific community. A related study with the NIH found that there were no links between fertility and the vaccine, which is one of the most common misconceptions and source of misinformation. Another reassuring study.
And Dr. Narukar, while we have you, we have a question from a viewer this morning. Harris Hyatt from North Carolina asks, when will the pandemic to endemic really happen? Big picture question there, but what would you say?
Harris, we think about this almost on a daily basis. It is very difficult to predict right now. Lots of modeling going on around this issue. We are currently very much in the acute pandemic stage. We have 800,000 people getting COVID daily, 2,500 deaths. Endemic essentially means that the virus will live amongst us and society will function as normally it would. We currently have a strain or a collapse of many healthcare systems. We are very far from endemicity, but we are very much in the pandemic stage of the virus.
Good explanation to a very common question we're being asked lately. Dr. Aditi Narukar, as always, thank you. And if you have a question for one of our doctors, let us know. Email us at morningnewsnow@nbcuni.com. And please let us know if you want to stay anonymous.
Overnight, 3 Houston police officers were injured in a wild confrontation with a suspect that police say involved a carjacking, a chase, and then a tense standoff. This morning, the suspect is in custody, and the 3 injured officers are expected to be okay. But this is just the latest in a series of violent incidents nationwide involving police. This morning, funeral services are being held in New York for one of 2 officers shot and killed last week. NBC News national correspondent Gabe Gutierrez has the latest.
This will be an extremely emotional day. Governor Hochul will be in attendance, and the mayor and police chief will deliver eulogies as the country mourns an especially few violent weeks for police officers. And we should warn you, some of the video you're about to see may be disturbing.
This morning, New York City prepares a final salute to a fallen hero. 22-year-old officer Jason Rivera shot and killed in the line of duty last week.
Jason was something special, pure happiness, willing to help people, always talking about to be a police.
Officer Rivera was fatally shot last Friday after a domestic dispute call in Harlem took a tragic turn. The suspect opening fire on Rivera and his partner, 27-year-old Officer Wilbert Mora, who died from his injuries on Tuesday. It comes amid a wave of violent crimes that have police departments across the country on edge. On Thursday in Houston, 3 officers were wounded in a dramatic shootout. Officials say 31-year-old Roland Caballero fired at officers during a chaotic chase, the suspect barricading himself inside a home before police took him into custody.
It's been a tough week for law enforcement. These are inherently right now dangerous times.
61 officers were killed by gunfire in 2021, up 36% from the previous year. In New York, 5 officers have already been shot this year.
I've been to too many of these, and I don't want to go to any more.
Thousands flooded the streets outside St. Patrick's Cathedral Thursday to remember Rivera, taken too soon. His wake attended by family, friends, and fellow officers from across the country. His impact and his loss felt by everyone.
My thanks to this officer who I never knew. He's a friend for all of us, a family member for all of us.
Officer Rivera married his high school sweetheart, Dominique, in October. She's paying tribute to her sweet angel on social media, writing, "I know you're smiling down at me, knowing
that I'm holding you down till the very end. The funeral for Officer Mora, the second police officer killed here in New York last week, will be held next week. Also next week, President Biden is set to visit New York to discuss gun violence. Back to you.
Thanks for that.
We're staying on top of breaking news. A bridge in Pittsburgh has collapsed. We want to show you some new pictures just so you can see the scope of this collapse. There appears to be about 4 vehicles, including a bus, on the bridge. We just learned 3 people were hurt in the collapse, but the good news, no serious injuries or fatalities reported. Now, according to Pittsburgh Public Safety, there is a strong smell of natural gas in the area. Our NBC affiliate WPXI in Pittsburgh says the gas has just been shut off in that area. Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf is monitoring the situation. The Red Cross is on the scene. This comes as President Biden is set to visit Pittsburgh later today to talk about infrastructure. We're going to stay on top of the story and bring you any new developments as they come in.
Let's get a check at your morning news now weather.
You may have heard a major winter storm is taking aim at the Northeast this morning, affecting just several million people. So Bill is here to give us an update. Bill.
That's it. Yeah, it's like roughly 1 in every 5 Americans is included in this. And it's mostly because of the I-95 corridor just has so many people that live there. So let's get right to it and let me break down the timing, the latest in the snow. Now we feel like as forecasters, we have a pretty good handle on this storm. It took a while for us to kind of figure out exactly the storm track, but it's been locked in now for about the last 12 hours or so. So 65 million people impacted. The worst of it, right along eastern New England, down through southern Connecticut, Long Island, New York City, Jersey Shore, Maryland and Delaware coastal areas. That's where we're under winter storm warnings or blizzard warnings. Other areas still going to get some light snow today, and you'll actually have a dusting to 2 inches on the ground, even in D.C. and Roanoke and Richmond as we go throughout this evening. So definitely be careful on the roads for your evening timeline. Now, as far as the timeline goes for Philadelphia, heaviest to moderate snow, 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. So you'll wake up the snow. Should be ending by noon tomorrow. Further to the north, New York City, 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the heaviest. Snow should end by about mid-afternoon on Saturday. So primarily, you want to stay off the roads early in the day. Let the road crews do their work in the early afternoon. Hopefully by Saturday evening, things will be a little bit cleared out more. But Hartford, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., pretty much an all-day event. And the same goes for Boston. You're not going to want to be traveling in and around Boston or southern New England really all Saturday. You may want to wait till Sunday morning at the earliest. So snowfall totals, if you're in the white, that's about 1 to 3. If you're in the blue colors, that gets up to 3 to 6. And then the purplish color heads up towards a foot of snow. So you can see almost all of New England is in a foot or more. And we could even see isolated totals of 2 to 3 feet. And a heavy band of snow that's expected somewhere near Providence, maybe just south of Boston. And you can see these totals. New York City, 8 to 12. Philly, 4 to 8. That's a plowable snow. A lot less D.C. to Baltimore. And as far as the airports go, I do think that Boston to New York, we will probably have closures as we go throughout Saturday for a period of time, maybe even a long period of time in Logan Airport. So just be prepared. We're lucky, guys, that this is actually happening on a Saturday. If this was like during the work week, obviously the consequences would be a lot more severe.
Yeah, hopefully everyone can stay warm inside, stay safe. I have a new pair of snow pants, so I feel well prepared. Hopefully it will be just a nice weekend.
Oh, you want to replace Kathy Park in Boston as well?
No, they're already sending me in New York. Don't send me to Boston. Thank you, Bill.
All right, you could say the cat is finally out of the bag at the White House. The first family has another new pet. Meet Willow, the feline that now calls 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue home. She's a 2-year-old short-haired tabby with gray and white stripes. She's named after Willow Grove, Pennsylvania, which is First Lady Jill Biden's hometown. She's the latest addition to the first family. You might remember just last month, President Biden introduced us to Commander, a now 5-month-old German Shepherd, which was a birthday gift from the president's brother and sister-in-law. So welcome to Willow.
And coming up on this Friday edition of Morning News Now, a potential silver bullet in the global fight against COVID. The Texas hospital that's working to bring a patent-free vaccine to low-income countries.
Plus, we'll head behind the wall and take a heart-wrenching look at China's controversial relationship with its Uyghur Muslim minority. That's up next. Welcome back. As the Omicron variant continues to spread around the world, medical experts are doubling down on the message that everyone needs to get vaccinated in order to end the pandemic. The problem with reaching this goal is vaccine inequity. Millions of people in low and middle income countries simply don't have access to a vaccine.
Yeah, but a pair of scientists in Texas, they are taking matters into their own hands by creating a patent-free vaccine. Here's NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky with more.
At Texas Children's Hospital in Houston, there is much more than meets the eye. Because past the exam rooms, inside this lab, lies what they believe to be the potential silver bullet for taking down COVID-19.
Our lab is the United Nations of Science.
A team of doctors, led by Dr. Peter Hotez and Dr. Maria Elena Batazzi, has dedicated their careers to finding a solution to fill a critical vaccination gap.
Look, Delta arose out of an unvaccinated population in India at the beginning of last year, and then Omicron arose out of an unvaccinated population out of Southern Africa. So Mother Nature is telling us what's going to happen as long as we refuse to vaccinate the world's low and middle income countries.
With $7 million mostly provided by philanthropists, the duo turned to an old answer to solve a new problem. Crafting a vaccine inside Texas Children's they're calling a game changer, one they say they don't own the intellectual property for.
It's a similar technology to that's used to make the recombinant hepatitis B vaccine. It's known as microbial fermentation in yeast. It's actually a vegan vaccine. No human cells, no human proteins, no animal cells, no animal proteins.
The technology important because it's existed for decades, allowing multiple low-income countries to produce their own vaccine without intellectual property obstacles or waiting for donated shipments of Pfizer or Moderna's vaccine that often arrive too late to make a serious difference.
So when a country receives your starter kit, what essentially are they able to do with that?
We don't only give them the starter kit, but we give them the recipe of how to brew the starter kit. You know, it's yeast, so it's a little bit analogy of brewing beer, right?
The comparison closer than you think.
This is where we cook it up.
Yeast is actually fermented inside these medical-grade bioreactors. But instead of producing alcohol, the Texas Children's team says they've engineered each kit to produce proteins, which mimics the COVID-19 virus. The first step for each kit recipient to making their own vaccine.
They get a recipe, they get a toolbox of tests to ensure the quality, the yield, the purity, and then they get us plus our team that if you have a question, you just pick up the phone.
What sets the vaccine created in this very Texas Children's lab apart isn't just how it's made, but why. There is no patent. That means that a company anywhere in the world can scale it unlike anything we've seen.
In fact, in India, Corbevax has secured emergency use authorization after completing 2 phase 3 clinical trials.
The great thing about it is there's no limit to the amount you can make. It's got one of the best safety profiles of any vaccine out there for COVID-19. Simple refrigeration storage. You don't need any freezers to store the vaccine. Pristine safety profile and probably the lowest cost vaccine.
Corbevax is being distributed outside of the U.S. and currently isn't FDA approved. But perhaps the most important of all, the accessibility the Texas Children's vaccine offers. By not having a patent, paving the way for partners worldwide.
What makes the patent-free vaccines unique is that companies can produce the vaccine without worrying about legal challenges and huge financial losses.
Now, with the pandemic entering year 3, experts say the global healthcare gap, especially with vaccines, has become more exposed than ever.
This is the greatest moral failure of our lifetimes, and we can't let this happen again. We have to have a world that is much more effective against preventing and responding to pandemics, and we have to have a world that's fair, more equitable, and just. And that's a global imperative.
And our thanks to Morgan Chesky for that report.
Now to our ongoing series, Behind the Wall, which examines the complex relationship between the U.S. and China. This morning, we're looking at an orphanage in Turkey that's providing a safe haven for exiled children from China's Uyghur Muslim minority. NBC News senior international correspondent Keir Simmons has more on this. Keir, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Next week, the U.S. will lead a diplomatic boycott of the Olympics over China's human rights record. The Chinese government's treatment of a minority group, the Uyghurs, is one of the main motivations for that boycott. We travelled to Turkey, where many Uyghurs live in exile, and found children separated from their parents. In this orphanage and school in Turkey, more than 100 children study together, eat together, live together.
My name's Abdurrahman. My name is Absalam.
They are far from home. Their families torn apart. Because they are ethnic Uyghurs, a Muslim minority from Western China. Their families fleeing what they say is persecution in China for their faith. For some, the orphanage's director, Abibullah Kurseni, has become their lifeline. You're all these kids have got right now. You are their parents. I can be their father. I can be their mother. They have all my attention, he tells me. Many of these children's relatives, he says, have been sent to what they call Chinese concentration camps. The State Department reports that since 2017, at least 1 million Uyghurs have been held against their will in as many as 1,200 state-run internment facilities. Witnesses making allegations not only of family separation, but sterilization, torture and forced labor, which the US calls genocide. China rejects that, calling the camps vocational re-education centers. We visited in 2019, the Chinese keen to show us their program aimed at, they say, ridding residents of extremism and separatist thoughts. One of my guides, a senior official called Mr. Shuguo Shang, this month in an exclusive video interview, denied China is deliberately separating families.
Those living overseas who are from the Xinjiang region and wanted to get contact with their family members or relatives back in the region can do so through the due channels.
Who are these guys? Who are these young guys? But back in Turkey, Abibullah introduces me to two of the youngest children in the orphanage. Will you introduce me? Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Kataiba. How old are you?
11.
11 years old? You're 11? Can I ask you a difficult question? When did you last see your mum and dad? They tell me they haven't seen their parents in more than 5 years. Do you remember what they said to you? My mother said, try your best to study hard and don't let me down, he says. Every day, Abibullah and his volunteers work to feed and sustain the children, yet they too have their own painful stories. In the cafeteria, a 17-year-old helping out in the kitchen tells us her father went missing after going home to see relatives 4 years ago.
We didn't do anything. We really didn't do anything. The only thing we did that we are Muslim and we are Uyghur Muslims.
They believe he too was sent to a camp. Your mom is crying too.
Yeah, it's not that easy for us without that in our family.
And back out in the hallway, Abibullah tells me his own harrowing story. His family too has been torn apart.
My sister, my little brothers in my homeland. I miss him, yeah.
And he says 45 of his relatives have been sent to the camps. Did you say how many?
Yeah, about 45.
45? Yeah. Every day, overcoming his own pain to give these children hope that they will be reunited with their parents. One day you will see them again?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, one day. And this morning reports that the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights will visit China after the Olympics to see for herself how the Uyghurs are treated. Guys, critics vowing to keep China in the spotlight over its treatment of the Uyghurs. Joe?
Keir, thank you so much for that report. We really appreciate it. Coming up, an NFL great returning to the classroom at Notre Dame once and for all.
The bus is back at school. We'll bring you Hall of Famer Jerome Bettis' journey to that college degree at his alma mater next.
Almost 3 decades ago, football great Jerome Bettis left college early to pursue his dream of playing in the NFL. But now the Hall of Fame running back is back in the classroom pursuing another dream and fulfilling a promise he made to his mother, getting a college degree. NBC News correspondent Ann Thompson joins us now with more on this story. Ann, good morning to you.
Good morning, Joe. You know, Jerome Bettis says he always thought of himself as a student athlete when he was in college. But when he left, the athlete took prominence as he became the heart of the Pittsburgh Steelers, leading them to a victory in Super Bowl 40. Now he's a student again, pursuing a different title.
The bus is back in school. Jerome Bettis, who powered through NFL defenses for 91 touchdowns and ran his way into the Hall of Fame, is once again at Notre Dame.
You are Notre Dame class of?
Oh my goodness. Class of 2022? Wow, I didn't think about that.
27 years after he earned that nickname in college, he's here to finish his business degree, more than twice the age of his fellow students.
What's it like to be back at school at age 49?
It is so strange because I'm so behind the times. I mean, I'm a dinosaur. I don't know where anything is. I'm struggling with the technology.
They take notes on iPads. He uses a pen and gets lost in new buildings.
I don't know which way it is.
But some things are familiar, like the frigid January weather.
Jerome, where are your gloves? I left my gloves.
4 courses from graduation, Bettis is just another senior. Sort of.
Everyone kind of knows who the boss is, especially at Notre Dame.
Bettis left Notre Dame his junior year for the NFL. A 1993 first-round draft pick for the Los Angeles Rams, he became a power-running icon with the Pittsburgh Steelers. A 6-time Pro Bowler, Walter Payton Man of the Year, Super Bowl champion, but not a college graduate.
Why is it so important for you to get that degree?
One, that I complete the task at hand. That's what I wanted to do. Also, I promised my mother that I would get my degree, but most importantly, I have 2 children. For them to see Dad finish a commitment, I think it says a lot to them.
Are you a better student at 49 than you were at 18, 19, or 20?
I am a much better student at 49 because I want to learn. I want to know all of this information.
To put to work in his current businesses, trucking, staffing, development, and marketing companies, as well as a TV personality during the NFL season.
This week, this is the only thing that counts.
27 years later, Bettis' football scholarship is still good. Of the 21 members of his football class, 20 earned their degrees. Notre Dame President Father John Jenkins says Bettis will be the 21st.
I say to all our coaches that there are 3 things we should be concerned about. First is integrity, do things the right way. Second is help these kids get a degree and do well in their lives. And the third is winning on the field. And Jerome's getting a degree after all his success just underscores how important that is.
Back in the locker room where he first found national fame,
I was somewhere right in here.
Bettis shows me the traditions.
Now, the first sign, you've got to make sure. And that one, you just want to tap it because there we go.
Today, pursuing a different kind of glory with the same enthusiasm.
This is that moment where it's all coming together. I mean, right now, it's got me itchy.
Are you ready to go?
I'm not ready to go. I'm excited, though.
This May, he will graduate at Notre Dame Stadium, fulfilling the promise he made to his mom.
This is education related, and you can never take away the education.
Finishing one of the best runs of his life.
Now, this story was a lot of fun for me to shoot because I'm a Notre Dame grad and I serve on the board. And over the years, I have crossed paths with Jerome, and he's always inspired me, but never more so than what he is trying to accomplish today. Joe and Savannah?
Oh, so cool you got to tell that story, Ann. That's great. I can't believe that scholarship's still available, too. I had no idea.
Yeah, Notre Dame's paying his tuition. At Notre Dame, if you leave early, you can always come back to get your degree, and your scholarship will hold.
All right. Thank you, Ann. Great story. Appreciate it.
Coming up, the kitchen craze that's taking social media by storm.
Of course, we're talking about the air fryer. You've seen it everywhere, but how did it become so popular? We're going to take a closer look after this. We are staying on top of breaking news. A bridge in Pittsburgh has collapsed. We want to show you some new pictures just so you can see the scope of this collapse. It appears about 4 vehicles, including a bus, were on the bridge. We just heard from the mayor who said 3 people were hurt, but so far, no fatalities reported. Now, for the latest, we want to bring in the Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, who joins us. And Lieutenant Governor, I don't know if you're at the scene or if it's just that you're outside.
The bridge collapsed. I don't know if you can see it. I'm right behind it. Here right now, it's surreal. The bridge collapsed on both ends of the span, and as was reported, there are no fatalities. Thankfully, thank God.
Yeah, what's going through your mind just looking at this right now? This is not a small bridge, right? I mean, there are cars on it.
Yeah, there was a bus on it. I mean, I've driven across this bridge thousands of times. My son's friends live in that neighborhood. We just drove over it actually yesterday. So it's in a major infrastructure artery here in the city of Pittsburgh, and it's surreal to see a bridge that you've driven over thousands of times just collapse 60 feet below into the park where people could have been walking.
How many cars do you see in addition to the bus down there? And are people still in those cars? Have they been rescued yet?
No, people have been rescued, and fingers crossed. They don't believe that there was anyone under, that was crushed under the bridge. That's what I'm hearing.
This is like a park, right? Is that what's underneath the bridge, or what sort of?
The bridge spans Frick Park, which is Pittsburgh's largest park within its city limits. And there's a dog trail and a bike trail directly below it.
And have you heard if folks were actually on the bus? Anyone was in the bus besides the driver?
Yeah, there were some people on the bus, and thankfully there's no fatal injuries or anything along that lines right now. Correct.
The timing of this is stunning in that the president is set to visit your area today to talk about infrastructure. What goes through your mind when you hear that? Obviously, we don't know what happened here. It's probably going to be months before we know the cause of this bridge collapse. But what goes through your mind when you think about that?
I mean, everyone knows that we need to renew our infrastructure. And this is an awful example and a reminder that happened in real time on the very day President Biden is coming to our area to talk about it. So it's the coincidence is remarkable, but what's so dramatic is that a bridge that thousands of Pittsburghers drive over every day literally just collapsed. And if this doesn't bring to the forefront the need to renew our infrastructure, I'm not sure what else can happen, because I think people are in a state of shock here just to see what happened.
I was in Minneapolis nearly 15 years ago when the 35W bridge collapsed, a huge span, 13 people killed there. Obviously raised alarms all around the country about bridges. How much are you worried right now after seeing this in person right now?
It's not so much worry. It's just a matter of shock, and thankfully no one was killed. But given the president's visit and the conversations we've been having as a nation about our infrastructure, I would hope this would dramatically bring it to the forefront even more urgently on how we need to get this passed, and we need to really rebuild America and our infrastructure.
All right. Pennsylvania Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, anything I didn't ask you that's important to add right now since you're out there on the scene? Anything we should see? I mean, as far as
I can point it. That's right. That's where we're at right now with the.
And that's right where it collapsed, right there, right?
Yeah, that's the bridge. That's the collapse. So that's where we're at here. And like I said, the thing I'm most grateful for is that there haven't been any fatalities.
That is the good news. Lieutenant Governor, we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. I'm sure we'll be touching in with you throughout the day. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Coming up on Morning News Now, your weekly dose of can't miss headlines from the wide world of entertainment. Got the Vegas venue that was supposed to house Adele for her now postponed residency has now found another A-list artist to take over some of her dates. We're going to tell you who that is.
But first, when we return, the online outrage over some big brands' mascot makeovers. That is up next. It's the appliance taking kitchens by storm, the air fryer. And if you do not have one, odds are the person next door you does. Do you have one?
I don't have one.
What?
No, which is weird.
I don't
you
either.
would
That was
think I would have
disappointing.
one.
Yeah.
Or or name a child air fryer. According to the NPD Group, a marketing research company, more than 25 million air fryers have been sold in the U.S. just in the past 2 years. But how exactly does it work? And how useful of an appliance is it? And why are they so popular right now?
Popular. Thankfully, we have someone here to walk us through all things air fryer. New York Times food reporter Christina Morales. Christina, thank you so much for joining us. First off, tell us why air fryers are so popular.
I mean, just think of the idea alone, being able to fry a French fry without using deep fry oil is an amazing invention as it is. But it's become a device that people can use to fry pretty much anything. And it's used, like I said, without deep fryer oil. And manufacturers have really capitalized on the idea that crispiness and crunch are among people's favorite textures. And that comes from some research from the mid-20th century.
So how easy is it to cook with an air fryer, and what are some of the best recipes you've seen recently?
It's pretty easy. It depends on the air fryer, you know, how you use it. What's amazing is that you can kind of open the lid or open up the device on the bottom, and you can see the food as you kind of go through that process, unlike maybe an oven that would take a little bit longer to heat back up to temperature. What's great about these devices nowadays, too, is that there are many different uses and functions, just like broiling or baking, as well as air frying. Some of the more popular things, of course, that you would expect would be like chicken nuggets or chicken tenders, French fries, onion rings. But people are making corn on the cob in the air fryer. People are making salmon, roasting vegetables. On our website, we have an air fryer cheesecake, which is something that I never thought would be great, but is, and a chicken parm.
All right. I mean, big question, though. I mean, do you like the recipes that you're getting and seeing in air fryers? Would you recommend an air fryer for a meal?
I think I would. Like I said, like a lot of people use it for salmon and roasted vegetables. I do that too. It's great for reheating leftovers like pizza. So it's really a device that can kind of both cook brand new meals and also reinvent the wheel, make some others really just much better. Coming from the microwave to the air fryer is just such a huge difference.
There are a lot of TikTok social media recipe videos out there, too. I don't know if
that's how people cook now.
Yes, you can get them all on social media. Christina Morales, thank you so much for that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just days after the M&M candy characters got their new look, Disney announced that Minnie Mouse is also getting an outfit change. These mascot makeovers have some people squeaking up about the changes. NBC News correspondent Jacob Soboroff takes a closer look.
One of Disney's most iconic characters getting a modern makeover.
Nice slimming sweater is what you need.
Minnie Mouse, trading in her classic red and white polka dot dress for a navy blue pantsuit with a signature bow to match. The new look, created by British fashion designer Stella McCartney to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Disneyland Paris and Women's History Month in March. It comes nearly 100 years after Minnie's movie debut. McCartney calling the outfit, quote, a symbol of progress for a new generation. But the fashion change is being met with some criticism.
They're trying to destroy fabrics of our society and pretending that there's issues. So everybody looks over here. Look at Minnie Mouse. Don't look at inflation.
Following blowback over another mascot makeover. Last week, candy maker Mars announced that its M&M characters had been redesigned to become more inclusive. A change that included the female brown M&M's high heels replaced with more sensible pumps. And the green M&M ditching her go-go boots for sneakers. And both with less makeup. Some questioning the change.
Were there women who identified with the green M&M? I'm genuinely asking, genuinely. Because as a guy, I know I've never looked at any of those M&Ms and been like, yeah, that's me, bro. I feel seen.
And others apparently taking the change more seriously. Fox News host Tucker Carlson criticizing the move.
M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous, until the moment you wouldn't want to have a drink with any one of them.
Disney and Mars just the latest companies working to adapt to fast-moving cultural changes. Some to better reflect their consumers, and others to address outcry over racist imagery and names, like Aunt Jemima's Pancake Mix, which became Pearl Milling Company, Uncle Ben's Rice, now Ben's Original, and the Washington football team retiring its original name and logo after it was denounced for years as a racial slur for Native Americans. Georgetown marketing professor Niru Paharia says consumers are demanding better representation.
It becomes a question for companies. Is this something that we are going to steer towards, or are we going to kind of stay the course and do what we've done forever?
Some of America's most iconic companies trying to keep a foot in the past while evolving with the future.
That was NBC's Jacob Soboroff. All right, it's Friday, which means it's time for our can't miss list. All the movies, TV, music you should check out this weekend because everyone's going to be talking about it on Monday. Joining us now with his top picks is Nigel Smith. He's a movie news editor at People. Good to have you with us, Nigel. So we're going to combine the movie and music categories today because there are two films debuting this weekend about English musicians. What can you tell us about them?
Yeah, so there's two. Well, one of them is a documentary. The other one is a concert film. I don't know if anyone watched I think it was a 4-part Disney Plus documentary series on the Beatles' final concert. It was directed by Peter Jackson. You can stream that now. But if you actually want to stream the full concert, which took place in London in 1969, you can, starting today on Apple. They're also going to be having it play for one day in IMAX, where if you want to get the full Beatles experience with the sound and the amazing picture quality, then definitely, if you feel safe, check that out in the theaters. So that's going to be available starting today. And then also there's a Charlie XCX documentary, a very different artist from the Beatles, obviously. It appeals to a much younger generation. And that's a documentary called Alone Together. It was filmed during the height of the pandemic. And this is the boom clap fancy singer really documenting to her fans her struggles with mental health and how she dealt with the pandemic while in isolation and creating an album with the help of her fans.
The Beatles, the Peter Jackson documentary was amazing. If you've not seen it, I will say I did it. It takes time. You got to like really dig in. It's long, but it's very
long.
good. Yes, we're hearing, or I have at least heard people talking about this new HBO series, Gilded Age. What's going on with that? Why is everybody abuzz over this new show?
Yeah, well, this is a really big deal, especially for fans of Downton Abbey, and there are a lot of those. So this is the new show from the creator of that show, Julian Fellows, and he hasn't had a show since then. So everyone anticipating, the second film in the Downton Abbey franchise will have to watch this. It's available to stream on HBO Max. I think the first episode is up, and this one isn't set in England. It's set in New York in the Gilded Age, which was the late 1800s, when there was a lot of money at play. This is like a time when there were entire mansions built in New York City. And it has this incredible cast of a lot of Broadway vets, including Christine Baranski, Cynthia Nixon, Audra McDonald, and the lavish costumes of the sets really make this a must-watch.
Yeah, I'm intrigued so far. Nigel, real quick on this last one here. We know Adele canceled the residency. Someone else stepping in. Who's that?
Keith Urban, he's come in to save the day. He already had a couple dates booked, but he obviously added a lot more now that Adele freed up those dates. So anyone wanting to check out Keith Urban in Las Vegas, now's your chance.
All right, and who knows when Adele's going to bring that show back. We're all kind of waiting to see what happens with that. Nigel, thanks so much. We appreciate it. And to our viewers, you can pick up the latest issue of People magazine. It is on newsstands right now. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.